Welcome to the Golf Spotlight. I'm Ralph Irvin, and today we are joined by legendary wedge master Bob Vokey. Bob, thanks for joining us once again.
Great, Ralph. Awesome to be here.
Now, a year ago was the last year of certain grooves for sale, but it was also the first year dealing with new groove rules with the PGA Tour, and it was quite a year for you.
It was an unbelievable busy year. To give you an idea, leading up to it, I remember we talked about how many grooves are working on trying to do the changes, but you know what the biggest thing, and I had like 6 to 8 people working 8-hour days for about 6 months getting ready to convert everybody over. You could figure like the price you pay for having 40% of usage on the worldwide tours is got to 1,500 players. So I had about 600 players actually, and they played 2 to 3 wedges each. I had to convert them into the new product. So all of late 2009 and all of 2010, probably the first 6 months, I was continually working with them and making sure there were, all their little needs and wants. Some of them maybe loft changes, a little tweaking here, want to try a different model, a little bit more bounce, and it kept me really hopping. So it's been an unbelievable year. I hate to say it was a year I'd like to forget, but I'd say I think I learned a heck of a lot also.
Well, and the other thing that you're then dealing with is going from the custom grinds and everything for the tour players to new product that's going to fit USGA rules this year.
No doubt about it. That's what we're working on. We're continually working on, new, as you say, we talked about new products, new grinds that I've discovered have helped do a couple of little different things. Certain cases like, there are a lot of players relied on having to run out on spin. If you were spin biased, you were really hurting a little bit. So what we had to do, we had to change it to almost what you call trajectory bias. In other words, you have to take the ball up a little higher and allow the ball to release, be aware of it. So all of a sudden it's a focus in their mind of tour players and in their mind to start picturing that type of shot. And so it took a little while working with them, and then they settled into it. And little example, I was out with Ricky Fowler, put it right in the head. I walked him a second hole, he hit a shot in the rough, and I says, Ricky, how's it feeling out of the rough now? You used to? He said, Bob, he said, no problem at all. He says, it took me a little while to adjust. He says, I know what it's going to do now, and I know I have to let it hit and release a little bit and run out, and it's fine. And Kevin Oss said, Bob, he said, I'm back up to 6-inch scrambling on the tour, and he says, I've adjusted. And there were 2 players that were really pretty concerned about it when I first let them try the new groove, but now they're adjusted, and I say that's happening all over the tour right now, majority of players.
Well, and a couple things that have changed over the years is that one player's fitness is up there, that they have the muscle to power through the rough, and then the design is designed also to cut through the rough a little better.
Through the rough, no doubt about it. Working with them with bounces. And in other words, I was able to do a little different bounce change with them, a little different model change if they're worried about the rough, where they may have to take a little bit more technique change on the fairway. I was able to do a little grinds and little bounce changes that allowed them to execute the shot with the the most amount of spin they probably could get out of the rough under the conditions.
Now for consumers, it really goes to show that they need to understand their playing conditions and get fit for the right wedges to fit it now.
Consumer, I would say most of the time, the average consumer, they should, like rules of thumb, know your gaps. Know where your gap is so you can fill your gap. Know all your sand wedge options, what your bounces are, what lofts you need, what wedges you can hit, and then another thing is a lob wedge for me or not for me? Like I say many times, you hear me say that the greens you play to and the bunkers you play from, that'll let you decide a lot on your set makeup, whether you need a lob wedge or the type of sand wedge that you may use at your particular course. A little wider flange, a little more bounce, want a little bit more resistance. There's all these different things that's very important to be fit by. As I said, go to your local PGA pro who will help you fit you into the right wedge and enjoy the game a little bit.
Now, with your line of wedges for consumers, one thing that is out there is the fact that there's lots of options so they can get fit to exactly the specifications they need. They don't have to settle for something in between.
Exactly. That's what I've tried to do. Mid-bounce, I got a mid-bounce, low-bounce, high-bounce. And you always start what I call a tweener mid-bounce, and then you test them and you know your course. Hey, if you've got soft condition, very soft, soggy, you get a little bit more bounce, a little wider flange. If you're playing on firm courses, you can have yourself a little bit narrower flange. And you check your course. If you got bunkers, you say your course more often, get a club that's a little bit more, works for you in a bunker a little bit better, And then if it's firm, just the reverse. Get something that works a little bit better for you in the fairway, and you can go with maybe less bounce in the bunker,
Now, Bob, if you want to take a look at all the different options, they can just do that at Titleist.com.
No doubt about it. It's all there, and they're really explained really, really well. You know, I mean, you can that'll help you a heck of a lot. But you hear me allude, there's nothing like going to see at one of our fitting center or the fittings days and things like that. Then we have the ability to hit shots and try different ones and ask questions while you're there and educate yourself. Education, I think, is very, very important.
Bob, thanks for the time.
Ralph, I enjoyed it.
Want to thank Bob Vokey for joining us here on the Golf Spotlight. Join us next time as we continue to give you the information that you need for your next golf purchase.